Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Slightly early start, just going to give some people some time to join us. The training lasts about an hour and a half, hour 45. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can always come back later and finish where you left off. And since they're recorded, you can also get that link and share it with other staff members who may also need to be system admins on your Dash account. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about a feature as I go through it, and I'll try to answer the questions as I see them. We are here every Tuesday at 10 a.m., barring technical issues or unforeseen circumstances. And we're still a little bit early, so we'll wait just a wee bit longer. Now, I'll be referencing some other links to videos on our YouTube channel, so you might want to keep a tab open so you can search for those. Those are specifically the Pro ACDQs demo, the Advanced Reporting demo, the Introduction to Zapier webinar, and the SMS registration webinar. But those should all be on our YouTube channel for you to find. And well, let's go ahead and get started here. This is our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com homepage. If you notice when you're on that page, there'll be a blue bar going across the top of the page. There's a login link there that you can click on, and it'll take you here. I do recommend bookmarking this page just to make it easier for you to get back to later. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first, your email address, which you want to make sure is in all lowercase letters, your password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and then the account name, which is typically your company name, or possibly your own name if you signed up under your own name. Now, if for some reason you forgot your password, or maybe the email didn't reach you, over here on the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, you want to click on the Forgot Your Info link. You click on that, it's going to flip it over. We still need your email address. It's the one thing that identifies you, right? Unique identifier. And then, as it says here, we need one of these pieces of information. We don't need both, right? So either the account name, which again, company name, or a phone number on the account, right? That's a customer-facing phone number, right, that your customers dial to reach the system. So you fill that out, and then you click on Reset Password. This will send you an email, and it's going to have a link in the body of that email, which allows you to log in and change your password, right? It takes you to your user account page. Now, if you try to navigate away from that page, the system will log you out. Also log you out after you change your password. It will log you right back to this page where you can, again, log in. You have the option here to click on Remember Me, and then you click on Sign In. Now, I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So the system here is going to take me right to my dashboard page, give me a quick snapshot of what's going on with my system. If it's your first time logging in, the system will instead take you to your user account page, and the Dash Wizard pop-ups will start up. Now, you can always return to your user account page by clicking on your name up towards the top right. And you see here, I've clicked there, and I'm back on my user account page. Main thing people change here is their password, right? That's something that they can remember. Now, as an admin over here on the left, I also have access to the account level settings. The most common thing that's changed is the time zone. All right, you just do a search for the appropriate city. We normally just recommend Los Angeles, Denver, Chicago, and New York, going across the United States. Language, this would be the display language of the web pages, right? English, French, German, or Russian. If you ever need to change the account name, you actually need to contact our billing team, which is at BILLING at virtualpbx.com, because they need to sync a bunch of different things up to make sure your account is set up properly with a name change. Once you're done with these account or user settings, click on the little close box here to the top right, and then you'll be taken to the dashboard. The Dash Wizard will still have pop-ups here. It's going to have pop-ups on the first time you go to the user page, or the user tab on the left, as well as the groups tab on the left, which will be what we'll cover shortly. All right, so top of your page, all right, this banner across the top, you can always click on your name to go back to that user account page. Many of you to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle, right? D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. I don't have it on my user because my user is part of the call center, right? The ACD queues. Once you assign a user in to be part of the call center, the D&D toggle is removed from them automatically. Right? Those two features do not work well together. Right. Next up, I have this little phone icon here. That is because I've added a web phone device to my user. So this tab or this icon here will open up a new tab and take me to webphone.virtualpbx.net on my browser. This allows me to use Chrome or Firefox. So basically, when you click on the link here, it opens up a new tab, you have to log in. It uses your same Dash login information, and then it allows me to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls on my computer. The mobile versions of Chrome and Firefox are not supported. It may work, it may not. I know at one point it was working on my Android phone, but I haven't tested that recently. Now, over here, next up, we've got the little graduation cap icon. This will open up a new tab and take you to our support pages. So there you can see the various guides we have for the various features or devices that you may want to add to your account, usually with screenshots. Some of them also includes videos. Next up, we have a little chat bubble here. This will open up a chat window so you can start talking to our support team via live chat. Then we have the little 3 horizontal line icon or the menu icon. Some of our documentation may also refer to it as the hamburger icon. This will take you to different Dash features. Now, the majority of our training here today will be in the dashboard. I'll touch on most of these others, although some of them, like the call center and the reports, you'll have to use those other links on our YouTube channel, just because they don't display properly here on my streaming software. And the little arrow icon to the right is the logout icon. Now, if we jump in here to the center, where you see total users, I have 23. These are people on my account who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are on a per user basis. So the more users you have, the more your bill is going to be. Next up, I have total devices. I have 42, and then a little breakdown of each with a little pie chart. So first up, soft phone. Soft phone is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So Dash was designed with VoIP phones in mind, right? VoIP standing for Voice over Internet Protocol, right? And that just means using your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So soft phone, software, right? It can be on a computer, it can be on a tablet, it can be on a smartphone. This includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app, but it also, at least in terms of this bucket here, it also includes any third-party soft phones you may have on your account. Next entry here is the cell phone, right? So you can add cell phones or landlines to your account as devices, right? You're just adding phone numbers as a device. One thing to keep in mind, when we send a call to a cell phone or landline, right? Once you pick up on that device, you can't transfer that call. It's basically an endpoint. Next up, we have the web phone. This is that Chrome or Firefox device on a computer. Technically, it is a kind of soft phone. It was simply developed much later. Right? Soft phones have been around for, I don't know, 20 years, pushing something like that. Web phone, relatively recent. This is part of why it's separated out. Next up, we have SIP phone. So SIP is a particular kind of VoIP phone. It's a piece of hardware, right? So VoIP is, as I said, a voice over internet protocol. That's a general label for a kind of device, right? SIP is a subtype of VoIP phone, right? So there's other kinds of VoIP phones on the market. So when you're shopping, you want to make sure it's SIP compliant or SIP compatible. This would be like so for us, we have what we refer to as auto provisionable phones. That's what goes up under these SIP phones. So like Yealink, many Yealink phones, some Cisco, Polycom, etc. Unregistered devices, I have two, and that means I have disabled two of devices on my dashboard. Next up, I have total numbers. I have 36, right? So every account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Now, if you just signed up with us, I would say go to the pricing page, click on the details. There, it'll give you more details about what the plans include, also what the overages are. So like what extra phone numbers are per month. So for most plans, like I would be paying an overage on a per phone number basis. Then we have two breakdowns here, assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number, you're using it, right? Someone can dial one of those numbers and either expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, be sending a fax, joining a conference. Right? Spare number counts towards your allotment of phone numbers. You're simply not using it right now. Like for instance, you're about to open a new store in a city in the opposite side of the state from where you are currently. Probably has a different area code, so you grabbed a phone number for that location ahead of time so you can start making the marketing materials for it. But you don't want to put it in use because you don't want people calling a number where there might only be one person there for a couple hours a day as things are getting set up. Likewise, it could be like you took a number out of service temporarily. Let's like say you had a toll-free number for a specific promotion. That promotion ended. You're like, okay, let's take that out because we don't want calls on a promotion that's no longer valid. Then we got USDID and US toll-free. So US toll-free is actually US-Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888-877, etc., all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just says local phone number, right? So if you have a phone number in Dallas, Texas, right, that's a USDID, as well as if you had one, say, for San Jose, California. You can have international phone numbers on your account if you want to. You'd want to email our porting team. That's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's a possibility, first and foremost, and then if there's any additional requirements, usually documentation. That's going to vary from country to country, right? Some don't care, others are very stringent. Conference bridges, you see I have 8. That just means I have enabled conferencing on 8 of my users. So these are people who host or moderate conference. Over here to the top right, we have my main number box. So these 5 phone numbers over here at the top, they all behave in the same fashion. Right? So I'm having them all go to the same location. They're all going to play the same main greeting. You can obviously have multiple main numbers, or if you decide you don't want to have any, you want to make that decision at the beginning and just not assign any numbers here. Conference numbers, I have the one assigned here. You can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. This is a phone number everyone dials to join a conference, whether they're your staff members, your vendors, your clients, they're all calling this number initially and then enter in the appropriate extension number for the conference room if they want to join. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, right? This is your inbound fax number. And you can set up the fax box that's associated with it to, say who gets the inbound faxes as well as set up outbound faxing capability. The company directory, there's 2 downloads here. The first one is a CSV, right? So downloads a spreadsheet file that's going to have the names of all your staff members, their extension numbers, and their primary devices. The soft phone link here, that is for use specifically with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. so on Windows or Mac OS. You would download this file, upload it to the VirtualPBX soft phone app on your computer. This will allow you to see the status of the other VirtualPBX soft phones on your account. Right? So it's a way to see the presence if everyone is using the VirtualPBX soft phone. Right? So if you have a staff member who's got a Yailing phone, the VirtualPBX soft phone, and their cell phone, you're only ever going to be able to know if they're using the soft phone app. The VirtualPBX store, this is a link here that opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone, router, etc. And then we have your account realm here. This is used in a couple things. If you're going to make use of a third-party soft phone, this is one of the 3 pieces of information that the system will give you in order to program or provision that soft phone application. The other thing it's used for is for outbound faxing. So once you have your fax box set up, you actually don't have to log into Dash to send a fax out. You just use your email that's associated with your user, right? So create an email like you normally do. In the to field of that email, instead of say put your cousin Bob's email address, you instead put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number that you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then you paste in your account realm. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file. Right? The system does not look at the subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email. Right? It looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. Just one attachment per email. Again, you want to make sure it's a PDF or TIFF. The largest file I've been successfully able to send out is 7 megabytes, but it took over an hour before I got the confirmation of that. And I bring that up just because you're sending an email, the fax does take time. It's not going to be instantaneous success or failure necessarily. All right, up here at the top, you have caller ID. When you click on that, you're going to get a little box. It expands out to company caller ID. This pull down, you can select any of your main numbers. Now, it doesn't show up properly on my streaming software, so I apologize. But whichever number you select becomes your default number for a couple other features. Most notably, it becomes the default caller ID for all of your VoIP phones when you make an outbound call. Next up, you have this company caller ID name, or CNAME. In the box here to the right, you can enter 15 characters. It does count spaces or special characters, so 15 max. This is what we associate with your phone number. So when you make an outbound call for your VoIP phones, we send the number and then whatever text you have here. This is completely optional. You do not have to do this. Company emergency information, or E911. The system wants a North American address. For our Canadian customers, in the zip code, that's where you would put your postal code. And in the state, that is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. And then you would click on Save Changes. So now this information gets updated. If you did enter information in the CNAME field here, that information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them approximately 3 business days to update their databases. Right. So and there's some things to keep in mind about CNAME. So you pick up your VoIP phone, you make an outbound call, we're sending out this phone number and this text. Right. Calls go through several carriers before it reaches its destination. This is true for when you call out from your cell phone as well from a VoIP phone. In case of the VoIP phones, if any of the carriers that the call routes through does not support CNAME, then that CNAME information doesn't reach your destination. Even if that information reaches the destination carrier, right, that last carrier, they have final say about what they transmit onto the phones on their network. Right? So they can say, oh, you sent us this phone number, which you should do, and this name information. They can decide to pass that all through. Right? Yay, everyone's happy. Or they can see that information and say, we're sending the number through, but we're going to look up our own database and put what we have on file for that phone number, which may or may not be a good thing. And then lastly, they can say, we're not sending any name information through, we're only sending the number through. That last scenario is most common, or most commonly happens with when you make a call to a cell phone. Right? The cell phone carriers do not participate in CNAME. From what I've experienced in talking with other customers, many of the cell phone carriers want to charge their subscribers an additional fee a monthly fee, at least with my own carrier, to have CNAME show up on my cell phone. So just be aware that calling to a cell phone, company information most likely will not go through. Next up, we have this hold music icon here. This allows you to upload your own media files to play as hold music on your account. Now, hold music is for when a call reaches your user or a user on the account, and they've picked up the call, and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this hold music file will play. Now you can click upload here and find a file on your computer or device. The system will play back .wav or .mp3 files under 1 megabyte in size, or up to 1 megabyte in size. I usually recommend recording in mono, as that will give you a longer hold music file. A 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. So you would click upload, you would find the file on your device, click the up arrow icon, let it upload, and then click on save changes. Now hours takes you to part of main number, but I want to cover some of the users and groups first before we get into that. So over here on the left, I'm going to click on users. So here you see all the users on the account. The little gray people icon, these are your standard users. They have very limited access. They can basically get to their own user portal, which means they can check their voicemail online. They have a couple other things they can get to, but for the most part, very limited access. The people with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins. They can do all the stuff we're talking about today. You can obviously have multiple admins if you want. That's purely up to you. Up here at the top is where you add a new user, and you fill out the form, right? First name, last name, right? The system wants some sort of data here. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user, right? So you cannot reuse an email address for multiple staff people. The email address used for login is how the system communicates with the user, right? This is what the system will use to send their credentials to, voicemail notifications, password resets. Password, you just need to put in a password for the user. Again, once they get logged in, they can change it to whatever they want. And then the main extension number, right? You can enter in an extension number in this box here. Now the system will give you a recommendation based off what you denote the first extension on the system, right? So the system started with extension 1000. So the system is saying, hey, the next available one is 1018. You can enter in, right, a different sequence here, right? So if I wanted to say, hey, I want this person to be 5018, I can do so. The system does not really care. I do usually recommend using 4-digit extensions, just as that gives you a lot of versatility in terms of what you're going to do on the system later, and allows for a lot of growth. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for this user automatically, and that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. And that means a couple different things. First and foremost, it means like you create the user, you add a VoIP phone, they can pick up that VoIP phone, dial *98 on the phone, and click call. That will log them, or that will send them directly to their voicemail box, where the system will then walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as walk them through creating their voicemail box greeting. Right, so basically they're all set up. If you delete that voicemail box and try to add one manually later, there's no way to do that same kind of functionality. They would have to do *97 from the VoIP phone. Here, you have the option to include the user in the company directory, right? The Smart PBX directory or user directory. You can always change this later. Now, here is an option to send emails to an alternate address. So if you don't want to use the email address that you put in for the email address used for login, right, for the communication to this user, you would click the box here and then enter in a different email address here. So like if you created a dummy email address for, it's like support5@virtualpbx.com, right, which is not an actual email address, but you would say, okay, now send it to, bobsmith@gmail. I could do that. And lastly, you have the option here to send the credentials to the user. I usually say, check this mark here, so that way they know, hey, it gives them an email saying, welcome to welcome to VirtualPBX Dash, I believe it's what it says. It gives them their login information and some links. You have two options here. Create user means you're only creating one person. Create user and add another means you're creating multiple people, right? So creates this person and then brings back the form so you can add more people. Once a user is created, you can click on their name, expands out the box. So you can always change their name if you need to. Here's the option to change their login credentials. And if you click on it, so you can change their email address or their passwords. You also have the option here to have the system send them the password reset email so they can reset their password themselves. This is your option to change their voicemail box PIN number. Just use 4 digits. Here's the option to be in the, or send the option, here's the option to send to an alternate address. And here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Now here, this pull down, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. This is the time zone for the user, right? That way their voicemail timestamps are correct for their time zone. Little flag icon, this allows you to change the display language of these pages to the user, English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout measured in seconds, default is 20 seconds, is plenty of time to send a call to a landline or a VoIP phone. If someone's using only a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to at least 30 seconds. This one's grayed out because this user has the feature follow me enabled. The extension box, you can have multiple extensions for a user. You would just click on this link here and then add an additional extension number and click on Save Changes. Users can have their own phone numbers if you want. You can either add from spare or buy new. So add from spare is how you would reuse a number, right? Like if I don't want Aaron to have this phone number, I would unassign it. It becomes a spare number. So if I click on add from spare, you'll see I have these other phone numbers. I just click on the box in front of it and then click on add selected. And then I would click on save changes. And now I'd be reusing one of my phone numbers. Buy numbers is how you add new numbers to your account. You have your option of local or toll free. So toll free, you choose the toll free prefix, you click search. This will give you a list of phone numbers. And you can scroll down to keep looking for more numbers. You can add multiple numbers at once if you're so inclined. Now, this list is dynamic. That means technically you're competing with other people in real time. So you want to complete the whole process all the way through, right? So just because if I click add, this doesn't reserve the number for me, right? It's not mine until I click on buy, right? Once I click on buy, now the system is double checking, making sure the number was truly available, and then adding it to the account. And now you have two numbers on this user. And I can unassign, save changes. For adding a local number to a user, right? Similar process, but you need to know the area code you want to work with. Now, for any area code, including the toll-free prefixes, you can get this message, which is saying there's no readily available messages or phone numbers in this area code. Right, so 310 is one of the Los Angeles area codes. This is where I say, hey, just Google area code 310 overlay. Right? Especially in major metropolitan areas, there's usually multiple area codes covering the same geographic spot. So I would go back to my search, and Googling that would tell me that 424 is the overlay for 310, and I can add a number there, click on buy numbers, and here the system is verifying the number was truly available and adding it to my account. And then I click on save changes. And you see here, I got this little icon here that lets me know there's multiple So I can unassign and save changes. There we go. All right, devices. You can add from spare, which is reusing a device, or add new. First up is SIP phone. So this was that physical piece of hardware. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some like Yealink have a lot of models. Others only have a few. So find the make and model of phone you're going to work with. First up, give it a name, right? Like, Bob's phone, right? Or warehouse phone. Yeah. Then we need the MAC address. This is unique for each device. Usually a sticker on the back of the device. Or if the phone's plugged in, usually under its status or basic settings, you should be able to find the MAC, MAC. And you enter that information here. Then you click on Create Device. Then you would click on Save Changes. After you click on Save Changes, click on the device box again, click on the device itself. Then click Advanced, go to Miscellaneous. And then here it says Allow Reprovision, click the Unlock button, and then Save Changes, and then Save Changes again. That tells the system, hey, this phone is ready to be reprovisioned. Now, in terms of our dashboard, you're basically done. You need to access that phone's web user interface, right? The web UI. Basically, you get the IP address of the phone, basically from the phone's display. You put that IP address in the web browser on your computer that's on that same network as that phone. Log in, and you basically need to tell the phone, hey, go to this URL to get your config file. Now, for the specifics of the phone like interface, you want to go to our support pages. Right? So click on the little graduation cap icon up here. Go and do a search for auto provisioning. That's going to take you to our documentation that has screenshots for these various manufacturers. So, basically where to look for the proper syntax for that URL, because it varies slightly for each manufacturer, and usually a couple settings to verify. Right? You go through all that. The phone should reboot a couple times. After it's done rebooting, it should show up as a green device on your system. About the only other thing you might need to do is if you click on the device again under the user, especially for the SIP phones, right? Go under advanced and double check the audio. You want to make sure G711A and G711U are over here to the right. Click on Save Changes and then Save Changes here. The next device you could add is a cell phone. Right, so you give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. So it should look something like this. Right, so I gave it a name, +1 area code and phone number. Now, if I click Advanced Options, right, this is the default setup for calls going to a cell phone or landline. So as I mentioned earlier, when we send a call to a cell phone and you pick up there, or a landline, right? This is the final spot for the call, right? You're not going to be able to transfer that call to another staff member. So that's first thing to keep in mind. Now, so call comes in, gets offered to the cell phone, right? You hear it ring, you pick up. When you pick up, you're going to hear a message from the system saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call, right? It then connects you, you talk to the other person. That's great if it's an actual person that we're offering the call to. If, for instance, you've contracted out to an automated answering service, right? So they said, hey, have calls come to this phone number, we'll handle your calls for after hours. Well, if it's an automated answering service, then that service doesn't know when to press 1, right? It probably can't press 1, right? Can't send that tone. So you would want to come here under the advanced options for that phone number, put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail, and then click on Save Changes, and Save Changes here. So what that does is now when we send a call to this phone number on Bob, right, we send a call, that automated system picks up. We connect the call. Right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's no need to press 1. Right? We hear that pickup tone. We connect the call. Now, if this is really Bob's cell phone, and we have that setting in place, what can happen is his cell phone's voicemail can pick up. We connect the call, right? So the inbound caller ends up on Bob's personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that sometimes come up is keep original caller ID. So customer Mary calls in, ends up going to Bob's cell phone. On his cell phone's display, he sees customer Mary's phone number. If he he may not recognize it, so then he may not answer the call, goes to voicemail, and he's not able to complete the transaction or what have you. What you can do instead is uncheck this. And now instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, Bob would see the main phone number. Right? And that would be this phone number you set up under the company caller ID. Right? So hopefully he would recognize his main number or the company number, and he would then attempt to answer the call. All right, next up is soft phone. So first, there's this warning message here, which I do recommend reading at least once. When you close it, you're going to get a big box showing you some information. One thing to know is that on the user page here, this is the only place you can add the VirtualPBX soft phone to your account. All right, now it defaults to be using a third-party soft phone. Right, so someone else's application. But down here at the bottom, just below where it says the view configuration link, it says use third-party application down here. You click on that, and now it flips it to say use VirtualPBX application. You still want to give it a name, right? Bob's phone, etc. Then click on create device, and then click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, this user gets an email saying your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have the login information specific to the soft phone. Right? That's going to be different from their Dash login, right? So now, if I had gone through the steps here, this user would have at least 2 emails from the Dash system. One welcoming him to Dash with his Dash login information, and then a second email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready with a second set of login information specific to the soft phone app. And that email will also have download links for the app. All right. Next up, we have, oh wait, this is probably not the best person. Let's go to Aaron here. So user features. First up is caller ID number. This you can only turn on with a user that has their own phone number assigned to them. But when you turn it on and click on, and you select their phone number, you click on save changes. What you're doing is when this user makes an outbound call from their VoIP phone, they're using this phone number as their outbound caller ID instead of the main company number. All right, so this is a 323 phone number, also in Southern California, near LA. So this would be if Aaron is responsible for the Los Angeles area, it looks like a local call instead of numbers coming from San Jose. The virtual text application, there's also a link on there's a YouTube video on how to use the virtual text app, but you turn this on, you select the phone number on the account. That phone number should be a main number, auto attendant, or a number assigned to the user. And then you click on save changes. And then this person gets an email welcoming them to virtual text. It's going to have its own login information. So potentially 3 emails with 3 different logins. Virtual text allows you to text your staff or your customers, or from your, lets your staff members text your customers. There we go. The main feature of virtual text is you can share your number among multiple staff members. So for your main number, for example, you can have a dozen people watching the text coming in and out of that main number, right? So basically texts are not mixed. Now, if this feature does not show up on your users initially, you're going to want to reach out to our account services team because they will need to enable it on your account for you. There's also an SMS registration process for phone numbers, but our account services team has the information about all of that. Voicemail box. So this is the standard features. Now, if you're just signed up with us and you're the only admin, you're not going to be able to enable this feature until you add an extension number to your user. Right? Once you add an extension number to that first user and save changes, then you can come here and enable the voicemail box feature because it uses your extension number as your voicemail box number. By default, we send the email notifications via email and attach an MP3 file to that email so you can listen to it directly from your computer. Your voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages each. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. By default, you and your staff have up to 3 different ways to check or listen to voicemail messages. Right, the first way, via email, because we send it to you. The other two, the first is via the user portal, right? So you can log into dash.virtualpbx.com, go to the user portal. It defaults you to your user tab, where you can, or your voicemail tab, excuse me, where you can then listen to your voicemails, and you can choose to delete them, download them, whatever. The other option is you can call in, right? So you can call your main number, even from a cell phone. And as long as that main number is going to a virtual receptionist, when you hear that main greeting start up, you hit *97 from a cell phone or landline. Then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number and the PIN number, and then you can listen to your messages over the phone, and you will also be given an option to delete the messages from the voicemail box. Now, if that isn't working for your staff, then you'd want to click this, which is delete the voicemails from the system after the notification email is sent. Right? So that just means your staff members can only check their voicemails via email. So if for some reason they're not getting their emails, they may be losing voicemail messages. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices, and this is where you set up how those devices will ring to the user. And actually, let's go, I think. Oh, I thought I had one of my users here set up without it. Here, this will be more instructive anyway. All right, so you click on Follow Me, you click Enable. This is what it looks like to start. All right, the system wants you to tell it which devices you're going to use, or this user is going to use. All right, so this is where you would probably have to be talking with your staff members. But under the Do Not Ring column, you uncheck any device they want to make use of. So let's say I want to use these 3. Now, I just have this little green line here. I need to click and drag to give them a ring duration. Now, up here on the top, I have timestamps. Default's 220 seconds. I can change that down to 60, for instance. And then I can click on this distribute button. So now it's going to ring in order. If I want to change the order, click and drag and click distribute again. Right? So now anytime someone enters my extension number, right, call is going to ring to this mobile high phone first, then the soft phone, and then my web phone. Right? It's not going to ring my cell phone. Right? Because I have Do Not Ring. Now, that's for people who call my number directly, enter my extension number, or who are transferred to me. If I'm in a ring group, calls from the group ignore this feature. Let me re-enable. So I forgot to save changes. Right, so if I'm in one of my ring groups, call comes in, it's going to ring all 4 of my devices at the same time. It's not going to go ring them in order. Right, next up we have the fax box feature. Choose enable. This allows you to have your users have their own fax box if you want them to. Most of the time it's not needed, right? You have the main fax box and you don't need to have multiple fax boxes, but some accounts want that. You have your option here to select the spare number, buy a new number, or assign an extension. I recommend using a phone number. That way the user can send and receive faxes. If you select a new extension number, they can only ever receive faxes, and you potentially limit who they can receive a fax from. Right? So like many electronic fax services don't allow you to add an extension number, right? They just let you fax to a phone number. Even for an analog fax machine, you have to have someone who's either knows how to enter in the fax number with an extension, or they have to sit there and listen to it, the call, right? And then when they hear the main greeting, enter the extension number and then click on send fax. Conference bridge, you click to enable. Main thing you would need to set up is the conference room number PIN, 4 digits basically. The enable video conference, this would be only for internal use, right? So any of your Dash users can make use of video conferencing, but anyone outside of your system will not. And then you would click on Save Changes. Your staff members can change the PIN number themselves under their user portal. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Now, your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own, either via the user portal or using feature codes on their VoIP phones. Failover mode is something you would have to set up as a system admin. This is for if their VoIP phone goes offline and a call comes into the user at that time, the system will automatically forward the number that you designate, right? So you would click failover mode, choose a mobile or desk phone number, you put +1 area code and phone number, so no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then click on Save Changes. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this. Right? So you're not actually recording anything. You need to tell the system which kind of calls you want to record. Inbound internal is coworker Bob called Aaron or called me. Right? You can turn that on or leave it off. Right? Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Right? So outbound internal would be I called coworker Bob. And then outbound external is I called customer Mary. So we either see this or we see this typically among the customers who make use of customized call recording. Either way, you then click on Save Changes. Oops. Now, every account includes some level of account storage or data storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you just signed up, just double check the pricing page. If you record every call and you have heavy call volume, we typically recommend talking to our account services team about AWS storage. Right? So you'd want to have an AWS account with Amazon Web Services, and you can link your Dash account to AWS to have AWS store your calls. All right, music on hold. You can choose to have your users have their own hold music. Right? You would click to enable, and then you would upload .wave.mp3 recorded in mono up to 1 megabyte. Click up arrow icon and then click on Save Changes, or you can select from any file that's already on the account. Do not disturb. If you enable this, that means this user is not taking calls. Right, calls to them are going to voicemail, and they'll be skipped in a group as well. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature, basically for hybrid scheduling or shared office space. First up, you set up a hot desk ID. So if you're making use of 4-digit extensions, I say just use their extension number. Makes it easy for them. You can choose if you're going to require a PIN number, and then you would click on Save Changes. So this would be, let's say I come into the office on Tuesday, I sit down on desk number 2, I pick up the VoIP phone at desk number 2. I enter *11 on that VoIP phone and click call. The system will then ask me for my hot desk ID and then PIN number if that was required. It will then tell me calls will now be sent to this device. Rest of my workday, any call that's coming to me, gonna ring at the phone I'm sitting at. Right? End of my workday, I pick up the phone, I hit *12 to turn off that feature. Next time I roll into the office, someone's already sitting at desk number 2. I say good morning. I sit down at desk number 7. Same thing, pick up the phone, *11, hot desk ID. Now I'm getting calls at that phone. All right. Next up is groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, basically departments. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group, you give it a name and an extension number. After that, you then click and drag your staff members who you want to be in that group. Click on create group here at the bottom right. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right, so you can change the name at any time. And then you have the group call attempts right down here. You have little arrows here to the right where you can increase or decrease that number. And this is how many times the system will offer the call to the members of the group. Right, any changes, click on Save Changes, or if you want to delete the group, click on Delete Group. Then we have the members box here. Shows all your staff members who are assigned to the group and how you're offering calls to them. This setup is referred to as blast ringing or ring all. Right, so I'm ringing everybody the same amount of time. This is good for a fairly busy group, right? Because basically it's whoever answers the call gets the call, right? So therefore your inbound callers are not waiting on hold too long. Now, I mentioned this under users, right? But the follow me feature does not work with calls coming from the group, right? So any of these staff members who have multiple devices, all of them ring at the same time when they get a call from the group. Now, up here at the top, you have timestamps, right? Default is 120 seconds. You can change that. You can also have distribute, right? Now, this means that every time a call comes to the group, it goes to Bob first. If Bob's already on a call and a second call comes into it, the system doesn't skip him. It still offers it to him for 24 seconds before it goes to Aaron. Right, so then if Bob and Aaron both on calls and a third call comes in, that third call was waiting for 48 seconds before it's offered to somebody. Right, so that would be a reasoning why you might want blast ringing, or, again, these are sliders, so you can click and drag, so you can have a little bit more overlap, so that way there's not so much hold time for that caller. And just like under follow me, you can change the order and then click distribute. And so now it's going in this order, right? Because you need Bob to be focused on something else. Down here, you can add additional users. So like if a group has been, if you're having a particularly busy day, you can click and add additional staff members. And then you would either click redistribute or click and drag to adjust, right? You click remove, that just removes them from the group. It doesn't delete their user. Any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Groups can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Right? Just click on Add Extension and then Save Changes. Groups can also have their own phone number, right? You can either buy from new or add spare. Just adds it directly here. I forgot to mention this under users. When you add a phone number to a user or to a group, or basically anywhere that's not the main number or the auto attendants, those phone numbers are available 24/7. They don't have hours of operation. Group features. First up is ring back. Basically, by default, when a call comes into the group, right, it gets offered to your group members, when their phones start ringing, that ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller. That's ring back. If you don't want that, you can click to enable, then you can upload a media file. All right, .wave.mp3 recorded in mono up to 1 megabyte. Click the little up arrow icon, click Save Changes. So now instead of that ringing sound, your inbound caller hears whatever media file you chose to play. Next action, to me, this is the most important feature. You click to enable. If none of your staff members is able to pick up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Or where are they going to send it? You can send it back to the directory. You can send it to one of your advanced call flows, so one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue if you're making use of queues, specific device, a user, a different ring group. You can send it to a voicemail box. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you turn this on, that means your staff members can make use of call forwarding. Now, if your staff members have multiple devices, especially if that like secondary or third device is their cell phone, then you don't need to make use of this feature. Right? It's only if you have basically a single device for your staff members. Caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You can add additional text that shows up on the caller ID display of their VoIP phone or numbers. I recommend using one or the other, but not both. And then click on Save Changes. All right, so now let's go to main number. Sometimes takes a little bit for this page to load. First up, we have main company numbers. Again, shows all your main numbers. You can buy new or add from spare. Little gear icon. You can also get this on the numbers page or even wherever numbers are typically assigned. Caller ID. This is where you can update the outbound CNAM, as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM. Right? That would show up on your staff members' displays, their VoIP phones. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address associated with it. This allows you to assign the E911 information to your VoIP phones specifically, right? So they can have a different E911 address specific to their location, but it won't necessarily impact their outbound caller ID for anything else. Prepend VoIP phone feature, put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. All right, now we have hours of operation. You have 24-hour open office, right? You're open 24/7, or custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open. Put a check mark in front of that day, and select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option down here at the bottom to tell your system to go to lunch at a specific time each day that you're open. Put a little check mark here, and then you set your lunch hours, and again, that 24-hour or military time. And then you would click on Save Changes. Office holidays, put a check mark if you're closed for holidays, otherwise leave it unchecked. If you want to add holidays over here, all right, click on Add Holiday. You have your options for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of those creates a new row. Single day, give it a name, choose a month, the date, save changes, or the trash icon if you no longer need it. Date range, like I have here for the Christmas holiday, give it a name, start date, end date, save changes. And then advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving, right? Give it a name. Month 1st through 5th is what you can choose in this pull down, as well as last, and then day of the week. And then save changes. If you need to remove a holiday, you click on the trash icon. And then save changes. And then incoming call handling. So for these 5 main numbers, calls come in during my open hours. Right now, I'm having them route to my virtual receptionist. During my after hours, I'm instead having them route to my front desk group and then to the virtual receptionist. And because it's a different time of day, these can have different settings, right? And then my holidays, I'm instead having to go to a specific voicemail box. Now, the virtual receptionist is a link. It's going to open up a big box. So here on the left, your main menu. This is what people press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. Down here, you click Add Route to give yourself a new row. First pull down 0 through 9 and the star key, as well as a default action. And now, let's remove that. All right, second pull down, your destination, right? Smart PBX directory, dial by name of directory. Users, any users you've already added to the account. Obviously, if you haven't added any other users, then you're only going to be able to select yourself. Then you've got call queues if you're making use of queues. Groups if you added any groups. Devices for a specific device that you want to ring when people press a menu option, as well as a specific voicemail box. You can also have an menu option go to a media file, right? So like hours of operation or directions. However, after that media file is done playing, the call ends. Over here on the right, you've got your greeting options. Text to speech, you type in a greeting, you click update, save, and save changes. Now, the text to speech greeting is limited to 250 characters, not words. Does not count spaces. I have had text to speech greetings of over 250 characters, like 300 to 350, but 250 works every time. Now, you don't have an option to name the file yourself, and that means the system names it for you. So each of these text to speech greetings that I make here on this page will be called my main open hours menu TTS for text to speech, right? So I type one in, I call in, oh, I forgot a menu option. I come here, I edit that file, I click update, save changes. Now I have two files that are called main open hours menu TTS, which initially may not be an issue, but say 2 months from now, I might be in a place from one of my pull downs and I don't know which one is which. So if you make use of text-to-speech greetings, after you create one, over on the left, you'll see a greetings tab, which we'll be talking about shortly. That's where you can rename a media file to something that you can recognize. Upload your own file. Choose custom file, right? mp3.wave, recorded in mono, up to 1 megabyte. Click update, save, and save changes. Previously recorded file or existing file, right? This is a pull down. It shows all of your media files and just the name. Right? That's why you would want to change your main open hours menu TTS. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account. Right? That's what it means by a phone registered to this account. That's a security feature. Now, if you don't have that as an option, then what you would want to do is under the settings, right? So down here, where it says allow outside recording, when you turn that on, right, then you click save changes. Now you can call in and record your main greeting over the phone. Now, you still need this PIN number. So if you just signed up with us, right, if you called your main number right off the bat, you either get a busy tone because you haven't assigned it anywhere, or if you set it as your main number and haven't done anything yet to it, when you call it, you're gonna get a message saying that the greeting for this menu has not been recorded yet. It will then prompt you for a PIN number, right? This one specifically for your open hours. Now, if you have a greeting file in place, let's say you started off with a text-to-speech file, right? And then your customers let you know that sounded really weird or they weren't comfortable with it. So that's why they didn't, follow through on the call. You can call in, you would hear that text-to-speech greeting, you can still enter in your PIN number. The system will recognize it and let you record over the phone. In that situation where you already have a media file in place, right, when you record it over the phone, you're overwriting the existing file, right? It keeps the same file name, but you change the content. Now, this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So my system right here is set up for, I believe it's 8:30 to 4:30, right? So if I call in at 6 p.m., this PIN number no longer works. I'll get invalid entry. Or like I call on the weekend. Professional recording services, when you click on order here, it's going to open a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. Basically, you would work with them to order a recording. They bill you directly via credit card, and then they email you the file. So then you would just come up here to upload your own file. Settings, number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Right. So in this case, I said they can make 2 mistakes, which means they have a total of 3 attempts, right? Because they get 1 attempt built in. All right, dialing timeout. This is how much time the system listens for a second or tertiary button press, right? So caller calls in and presses 5, right? So that's not a valid menu option. The system waits for 5 seconds. It's like, are they entering an additional digit? No. So then it says, okay, no valid button press or not a valid menu option, no extension number. Well, that's a failed attempt. So replace the main greeting. They press 8, right? The system waits for 5 more seconds. Says, okay, it's still not a valid option. Plays it again, right? Main greeting plays a 3rd time. And let's say they press 9. Now, at that point, the system would end the call. It would say, we did not recognize your entry and goodbye. If I have a default action in place, then on that last attempt, the system would send the caller to the default action or the default route. All right. Allow dialing extensions by default. This is on, and that just means if the person calling in enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to them. Right? If you turn this off, that means your inbound caller can only press the menu options. And then suppress the playing of invalid entry. So if you don't want the system to say, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, or what have you, that message anyway, then you would turn this on, right? That suppresses that message from playing. So any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, click Save here. Click Save Changes back here under Incoming Call Handling. Right. After hours, in this case, I have calls coming here to my front desk group. This is a pull down, right? So I can send it to user. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit here. This second option is designed as a live operator answer option, meaning the purpose here is to offer the call initially to a person or multiple people to give them a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up, then send it to the virtual receptionist. So typically, you're going to off this first pull down, you're going to select either a user, right? So a specific person, call queues, which could be multiple people, or a group, right? Also multiple people. If they're not able to pick up, then it goes to your virtual receptionist. This is my after hours, so I have a different menu set up and I have a different greeting in place. The settings can be whatever, but then save and save changes. Not sure why that keeps coming up. Holidays, in this case, I'm using the third option where I'm saying, hey, calls, just send them to this specific voicemail box. Now, again, pull down. So I can still offer it to a staff member, right? A group, a queue. I can also have it go to a specific device, right? Specific phone, as well as a media file, right? So I can have a main greeting play. And this second pull down is one of your voicemail boxes on your account. So like this one here. And then save changes. Right. Main conference number, you can add multiple, right? Buy a new, add from spare. The custom greeting, you click enable and you can type in a greeting, right? Text to speech, click on save. Even if you don't enable the feature, right? You leave it disabled. When you call your conference number, the system says, welcome to the conference, and then asks you for the conference room number and the PIN number. The main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number. Once you've assigned it, you click edit fax box, and then you have the inbound notification email. The idea here is to put an email address. This person, in this case myself, gets an email every time a fax comes into the system. It's going to have the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials my fax box number, say from their cell phone, and they hang up after hear the fax tones, I'm still going to get an email saying there was a failed fax attempt. So something to be aware of. Now, email permissions, this is where you set up your outbound faxing permissions. This is designed to put your company email domain here, right? So in this case, at virtualpbx.com. That means everyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on this account, even if they're not a user on the account. Right, they just need that proper format, the +1 area code and number, my account realm, and then attach a PDF or TIFF. So then you click on Save Changes. All right, auto attendance is a plan-specific feature, meaning available on some plans and not others. A couple of use cases. First use case is submenuing, right? So you want like people to call your main number and then have the option to press 1 for English and 2 for Spanish, etc. Then you would create, or you would have created, an English and Spanish auto attendant on your auto attendance page. That way, each of these attendants would have their own greeting in the appropriate language, and the menu options go into the appropriate staff members. The other reason we see multiple auto attendants used is for people with multiple businesses, right? So they want these multiple businesses on the same account. Basically makes it easier for billing. So up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant, right? You give it a name, and you give it an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. Now, the extension number is not something you would expect your customers to know, but your staff members can use it to transfer calls to the appropriate attendant. Like if a call came to me and someone is speaking Spanish and obviously could not speak English, I'm not going to be able to help them, so I don't speak Spanish myself. So I would then transfer them to my Spanish attendant. So that way, one of my staff, my Spanish-speaking colleagues, could help this customer. Right. So once an attendant is created, you can click on its name. It shows up like this, unavailable in main menu, meaning It's defaulting to be a standalone attendant or for a separate business. I can click on this, and now it's going to be available in my main menu, meaning it's available to be in a sub-menu, right? A destination within the main system. I have the option to delete or save changes if I make those changes. Attendants can have their own phone numbers. You can buy new or add from spare. They can have multiple. You got the little gear icon here too. Extension or auto attendants can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Just click add extension and put the extension number and then save changes. And then you've got the little wrench icon here under settings. You see you have open hours, after hours, and holidays. So your auto attendants follow the same hours of operation as we set up under your main number. Right? So any phone number that you have listed under main number or under your auto attendants, they have hours of operation, right? So they can be closed. A number anywhere else is available 24/7. Right? But beyond that, these are all going to a virtual receptionist. So just what we were just looking at, where you can add menu options, a greeting, etc. Click save, and then save changes. All right, the device tab shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, so we can't send a call to it. That could be someone that's not logged in or something's not plugged in, or they're having internet problems. Right, these two black devices, these are the ones I've turned off under the enable column here. And then anything in green, I can send a call to. Now up here at the top, you can add new devices, just as if we're under a user. The soft phone, when you bring it up, again, you don't have that option to change it to say use VirtualPBX application. So if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, you need to add it directly on the user page to the user specifically. You'd also want to do that for the web phone, just because the web phone uses the user's login information. But here you can also go to any device and, oh, where did I? Right, so you can update the external caller ID, so you can have a specific number, but you can also assign the E911, right, for each device. So that way, if you have people at multiple locations, you can have the correct address for their location. So that way, if they call 911 from their VoIP phone, the correct address is transmitted to emergency services. The greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Hold music, main greetings, voicemail greetings. Up here at the top, you can add, right? So you can give it a name, find the file on your computer, then click create greeting. It will upload it here. It doesn't assign it anywhere, right? Just now it's available from the pull downs. You've got the name of the file. You have the source. So TTS, text to speech. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. You have the column here where you can play back a greeting so you can listen to it directly in your browser. If for some reason that doesn't work, then you have the download link. So you would download it to your device and play it on your local media player. You got the little wrench icon here at the far right. So this is how you would change the name, right? You would just type in the box here, or simply delete the greeting if you no longer need it. Right? If you change the name, don't forget to click on Save Changes. Numbers starts you off with your numbers in use, just shows you where you've assigned it. You cannot unassign a number here. You got the little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend information for a particular phone number. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using right now. So if you wanted to remove a phone number, you first have to unassign it, so it becomes a spare number. Once it's in spare, you can come here, click on the box in front of the number, and then click on the delete option that shows up. Click on delete numbers to confirm, continue, and now I remove those two phone numbers from my account. Port, right here. This starts the port process. You give it a name. You choose local or toll-free. It then wants you to upload a copy of your bill, right? A PDF version of your most recent bill from the current carrier. It's then going to ask you a lot of information, right? It's going to want like address information. It wants you to upload a completed and signed LOA. It does provide for you to have a blank LOA if you don't already have one. The LOA should match what your current carrier has on file for you, right? So whatever business name they have for you, whatever address they have, etc. We also ask for that in the form or the flow for this port request as well. So you're basically filling it out twice. The system also asks for a BTN, which is billing telephone number. If you're only porting the one phone number, that's the BTN. Some phone numbers require a PIN number to port out, anywhere from 4 to like 9 digits, depending. That you have to get from your carrier. Some of them have it right on their invoices from you. Others don't. You have to call in and get it from them directly. Now, once we get that information, you'll get an automated email from the system saying you've submitted your port request. You should get a second email from our billing team within the next business day, letting you know that, yes, we've got the port request, or there's a problem with the documentation in some fashion. Toll-free numbers take about a week, right? 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers can be anywhere from a day or two to a couple weeks. Just depends on the other carrier. We do not control when the port completes. Right? The other carrier, the carrier who currently has the number, they're the ones who determine when the port will complete to us. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo or there wasn't or there's any additional or alternative information we could have used, like for an address. But once we go through all of that, we then let you know saying we're getting a rejection for this reason, and then you would have to contact your current carrier to find out what the correct information needs to be. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. Any voicemail box that has that entry under the user column here, that means that was the voicemail box that was created with the user, right? So anything that's blank, either the system created, like the main voicemail box, or you created manually up here at the top. Click on Add Voicemail Box, give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. I suggest 4 digits. And then click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the wrench icon, right? So you can adjust this information. The voicemail box number and the PIN number, right? That's what you would use to call in and listen to voicemails over the phone or change the greeting over the phone. Under Advanced Greeting Media, you can upload a file or choose from a file that's already on the account, right? So if you have like a generic voicemail greeting that you want your staff, every voicemail box to have, you would just select it from the pull down. Right, so the media file is your normal default message. The temporary is for your out of office or vacation message, right? So if you have something selected under temporary and media, right? So you have both things selected, the temporary file plays. The media file will not play until you set the temporary back to none. Right, you can upload files directly, MP3, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Then you would click on Save Changes. Recipients. Your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient already, right? That email address used for login. Any voicemail box you create on this page, you will want to click here where it says Add New Recipients, and then add an email address. And then keep clicking Add until you're done, right? And then click on Save Changes. You can obviously do this to your user voicemail boxes as well if you need to have additional recipients on those, like a manager or what have you. Then under advanced options, so once you have a media file in place and a recipient in place, then you can click on the box in front of already set up, and you can verify if you want to delete after notification, as well as that you made sure that allow attached messages to email. And then you would click on Save Changes. Call logs basically shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month. Green arrow to the right means a call came into the system. Let's see if we can find a longish call. And so you see here, call came in and went to this device, right, and this phone number. Here you have the yellow arrow to the left. That's an outbound call. Now, sometimes that's just a call that came in. This is the outbound leg of a call, right? It's not necessarily, it's not always a call that left the system directly, although this one probably is. So here you can see the device used and what number it went to. little fire hydrant icon here reports that specific call. So it creates an email for you, and it has the technical details. It doesn't have any context. So you want to type in the body of the email why you're sending it in. Sometimes we can tell by the technical details, but most of the time we can't. The custom field lets you choose your date range. All right, so you can go to the previous month, for example, and then click filter. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. If you need to go back further, our engineering team can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is no longer available. So if you need your call log data for some sort of compliance reasons, I recommend doing this every month. That way you just keep a running spreadsheet. Download, right? This downloads the call log as a CSV file. So if you are good with spreadsheets or you have a staff member who is, you can get a lot more information out of the call logs because it gives you like the detailed information as well. Feature codes, I've mentioned at least one of these. These are ways for your Dash users, or your VoIP, excuse me. This is a way for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. So like checking voicemail, right? Or call forwarding, that sort of thing. This is a page on our support pages. You can also, under the support pages, find the phone commands cheat sheet, which has the context help as well, which can be useful. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. Blacklists allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your system, i.e. they're not getting through. So you would click Edit Blacklists. Over here on the right, you would either click Add to create a brand new list, or you would click on an existing list just to add to one. All right, give it a name. Then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? And that just means if we're not getting valid inbound caller ID, are you blocking the call from reaching us? Or reaching you, rather, right? So if you turn it on, if we have invalid inbound caller ID, call not getting through. If you leave it off, then those calls come through. After that, down here, you click on where it says add number. You put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And you keep clicking add until you're done adding numbers. Once you're done, you click save. You go click on back to settings up here at the top. And then you make sure your lists are over here on the right under selected. And then you click update. So now all the numbers that are on these 3 lists are blocked, right? When they try to call any of my numbers that are on my account, they get a busy tone. All right, faxes. This is your fax box manager. You can get to any fax box on your account. And you can see the status. In this case, I'm on my inbound faxes, so I can see the faxes that have come in. I can download the files, and I can view the technical details. All right, you can also choose to sort them by all or etc. Outbound faxes. Again, you can select the fax box on the account. If you see a failure here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. Right? That could be busy tone, or we initially connected, but something interrupted the transmission. Now, hopefully, you always see success, but you see the date, the time, phone numbers involved, number of pages. You can download that file again if you need it and look at the technical details. Email to fax logs. If you see information here, that means we had a problem, or the system had a problem with the request. Right? You can see the email addresses involved, right? The format of the to field of the email address, so you can see that these people are doing it correctly. Date, the time, and then you have a little eyeball icon here, and this will tell you, oh, this one didn't have a valid attachment, like someone forgot to attach a file, period. If it's the wrong file type, like say someone tried to send a docx, it will give you that information here as well. In this case, some of these other cases, it looks like it's people using personal email addresses instead of their work addresses. Number manager just takes you back to your spare number page. Reports, this is a plan-specific feature. It's advanced reporting where you can create your own reports. You'd want to check our YouTube channel for the advanced reporting demo to properly see what it is, because unfortunately it doesn't work on my streaming software. Voicemails, this takes you to your voicemail box manager, so you can get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can see their messages. So that way, as an admin, right, you can listen to other people's messages or mark them for deletion. You can also move voicemail box or voicemail messages to other staff members or other voicemail boxes. SMS registration, this is if you want to make use of texting. So you have information page. This is where you start the fax or start the registration, excuse me. And here you would see your status. Call center, another plan-specific feature. Call center call queues, right? This is an upgrade off of existing plans. They're a more powerful version of groups, right? So groups are fairly simplistic, right? You can ring everybody at once, ring everybody in order. That's about it. Call queues, you can have round robin, which will equalize out the call distribution over time. Most idle, right? Who's been waiting for a longer call, longest gets the next call that comes in. That sort of thing. Call queues also allows your staff members to log in and out of the queues, right? Beginning or end of their shifts, as well as mark themselves as unavailable, like when they go to lunch. Not something they can do with groups. So for this, again, under our YouTube channel, you want to look for the ACD Queues Pro demo. That will give you an idea of how the call center works. The call center also for admins, if you assign yourself to a particular queue, you can eavesdrop in on a call with one of your staff members so you can make sure they're handling the call okay. You can whisper to your staff member to give them help while they're on a call or barge in. Dynamic caller ID, this is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules, here, create rule, to allow you to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So I'm gonna click edit next to this rule down here. So you give it a name, then you choose a phone number that's on your account from the pull down. And then in this case, I'm saying, whenever my staff members dial a 408 area code phone number, their outbound caller ID from their VoIP phones will automatically change to the 669 phone number, right? 669 is an overlay for 408. So it looks like a local call to the people I'm calling. The other way to do it is here, right? So give it a name. I choose a 323 phone number on my account. But here, my staff members need to remember to dial star 550 area code and phone number. When they do that, the system will change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. Again, so it looks like a local call to whoever they're calling. Monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what device they're using, right? Each call they're on will be on a little blue box. You can also sort by device, right? You can go all, available, who's busy. On the active inbound calls, each one would have a blue box showing who they're speaking to and what device involved. Parked calls over here, they would be listed here, and their parking spot number would also be listed. Recording Manager, this opens a new tab and takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It uses your dash login to log into that page, and that's where you view your call recordings, right? So you can listen to them, download them, delete them, etc. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature as well. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. It's programming, so a little beyond me, but you click on New Hook and basically fill out the form. You need something else to link this to, right? So another piece of software or subscription to someplace. You can talk to our sales team. They have more information about the webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. Additionally, on our YouTube channel, there's the Introduction to Zapier webinar, which also covers webhooks. So to give you an idea of what can be done. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user on your account has access to their own user portal, right? So they can see their own voicemails. So they can listen to them, download them, etc. Right here, they can see their call history. They can edit the date range so they can go further back in time and see, again, their call history. The fax tab here, this only works for users that have their own fax box, right? So they can see their fax history. The contact list is everything within your Dash account, right? So other users, groups, auto attendants, etc. Basically, your staff can use this for like transferring calls. This is not something they can really change on their own unless they're system admin, in which case it would be available to everybody. Conference tab. This is for users that have you've enabled conferencing on. Over here on the far right, this is where your staff members would update the conference room PIN numbers, both for themselves as a moderator as well as for their participants. And they can choose who can be or if people enter in muted or deafened, and are you having the system play entry and exit tones. When you're in a conference, the plus sign here lets you invite other Dash users to your conference. Then you can also lock the conference. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody. You can end the conference call. Also, while you're in a conference, each user or each moderator and each participant has their own box. This allows you to mute a specific person as well as to kick a specific person out. And then we come to settings and devices. Right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. Right, put a little check mark at the box here, sorry. Put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and click on save. And that is everything. I thank you for your time today, and we'll be back here next Tuesday at 10 a.m.